Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today, and I have a review here for a show, an anime, that I loved so much when I was a child. It was coming to America about the same time when Dragon Ball Z was at its absolute peak here in America. DBZ was such a big deal, and this is something that Funimation also dubbed from Japan and released here at the same time, but I don't think this was an everyday thing on weekdays like Dragon Ball Z was. I think this was just on Saturdays or Sundays, I can't remember. But this little anime here came out in 1992 over in Japan and ran until 1995. It's 112 episodes, and that amazing show, named after the manga, is YuYu Hakusho Ghost Files. I love YuYu Hakusho. It is my second favorite anime of all time. I love some Naruto. I haven't finished Shippuden, not even close. This is amazing. For the most part. It's got its problems. I can't talk too much about that without getting into spoilers. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep this as a shorter review. Because I want you to go in knowing very little. I personally think, and I've read the first couple of volumes of the manga, I didn't like it. Even though I started watching the show years ago when I was a kid, my mom made me turn it off because it's very focused on demons more than like DBZ ever was. So I didn't get to finish this as a kid. I didn't get to watch all the run of it as it came on TV. But when I was watching it, I loved it, dude. It was so good. And a lot of people argue that the dub in English is the best version of this, and I agree with that. Everything from the theme song to the dubbing. I got this box set last year from my mom for Christmas, and my sweet mom knew how badly I loved this show as a kid, and I never got to watch the rest of it. So throughout 2025, I watched it, little pieces and fragments here and there. And when I finished it, I was sick at Christmas, so now you finally get your review from me. This is amazing for me. I just loved this show. For anyone who doesn't know what Yu Yu Hakusho is, basically we follow a young man named Yusuke Urameshi, who is kind of a school bully, but he's kind of an anti-hero. He's very arrogant, very egotistical, and he has kind of a girlfriend named Keiko that he cares about, but doesn't want her to know as much that he cares about her. But she cares a lot for him. They kind of grew up around each other. And if I remember correctly, all of these kids are in middle school. I don't even think they're in high school yet, but they're drawn to look like teenagers, like high schooler kids. And talk like them too, which is funny. Basically, he saves a little boy who almost gets hit by a car, and Yusuke gets hit and killed by the car. And he meets a spirit guide, witch-looking chick who has blue hair named Botan. Now, Botan's kind of weird. Sometimes she's just a regular English speaker. Sometimes they have her having a British accent. I don't know why they changed that up so much. I did a little research, never really got a really satisfying answer on why they kept changing it up in this dub, but they do, and it's weird. So, basically, Yusuke, he meets other people, like Koenma, in the afterlife. And basically he gets the chance to become what's called a spirit detective, where he'll hunt down demons, or, he kind of just stays as a ghost, but then he also gets the chance to get his body back at one point. And it is such an emotional ride. It's everything from why would the school bullies save a young boy on the road when he could have just let him die? You know what I mean? There's a lot they do here with Yusuke, and I just love him as a character. I love the voice actors for pretty much everybody. I love his rivals at school. There's one particular guy that's probably one of my top 2 or 3 characters on the show named Kuwabara. He's played by Christopher Sabat, who plays Vegeta and Piccolo on Dragon Ball Z. I love him. Great actor. Kuwabara's another school bully, but he hates Yusuke more than anybody. They're really big rivals, kind of like a Goku and Vegeta thing, but even more friendly than they are, if that makes sense, as the show goes along. And at some points as the show goes on, they meet a couple other guys that kind of become the core 4, if you will, to pardon the stealing from Scream as a franchise. Basically, you have Kurama, who is a fox demon or some shit. I don't really understand all the lingo. There's so much lore to these shows, like anime and manga, that it's kind of hard for me to remember all these things if I didn't grow up on them, like Dragon Ball Z, and obsessively play games and stuff that recap the stories over and over again. It's hard for me to remember names, too. Kuwabara and Kurama, I literally cannot remember Kurama's name because Kuwabara's on the show, and his name starts with a KU as well. Anyway, one of my other favorite characters in my top 3, maybe even my favorite of the show, is a smaller guy who's kind of the Vegeta of this show, the real Vegeta of this show, Hiei. Hiei is like a straight out demon. He has like a third eye sometimes when he goes into his demonic transformation. He uses a sword and stuff when he fights, and like they all have their own spiritual powers. Like Kurama can also transform because he's a demon. Kuwabara gets a kind of like an energy spirit sword, if you will. They even use the sound effects from Lucasfilm to make it sound like a lightsaber, which I loved when I was a kid because I'm a diehard Star Wars guy. And this was coming out on TV around the time the prequels had started coming out, so it was a big deal for me to hear Star Wars sound effects in a cartoon, what I didn't know was an anime at the time. And, our main character, Yusuke, has a really cool weapon as well. He basically just points his finger like you're gonna, like you're using a finger gun, if you will. And it makes energy beams as big as like Kamehamehas, and as the series goes on, it gets bigger and bigger. But I also thought it was really unique. As an idea for the spirit gun that he uses, he actually, early on, he'll only have up to like 5 shots because he has 5 fingers. And I always thought that was really cool as an idea. Like he could just look at his hand and see like glowing orbs on each finger to show him how much ammo he had left in a fight. And he had to prepare to like make sure that he had enough bullets for a fight and not just waste them all to kill some guy or whatever team they're fighting. What I really love about this show, when I was watching it back in the day, not only is the American English theme song from Funimation amazing, like it's the same song from the Japanese anime, but in English, and it is chillingly beautiful. I mean, it gives me chills every time I watch this show. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite theme songs of all time. Easy in my top 10. One of the things that I love so deeply about this show is that it's very heavily, and it was like this when I was watching it back in the day, it's very tournament focused, especially for like the first, I don't know, third or fourth, probably third of the show. Starts out with like a lot leading into this thing called the Dark Tournament. Now, I'm a DBZ guy, so I love tournaments anyway. I don't know why people hate that and think it's so overrated and repetitive with manga and anime to do that. I love it, personally. But this is a very big focus in this show, at least for the first third, and kind of like the last, 10 or 15 episodes of the show are all dedicated to 2 different tournaments. And kind of that middle area between the 2 tournaments, to me, is kind of a lull sometimes. Even though I enjoy it, I love these characters, it's still kind of a lull in between those 2 tournaments. Dealing with another arc, sometimes, involving another spirit detective who went evil. Which is cool as an idea, but I don't know if the execution's up to snuff. Anyway, I love the Dark Tournament. That's what I was watching when I got to find out what YuYu Hakusho was when I was in school back in the day as a kid. And I couldn't have been more than like 7 or 8 or 9 when I was watching this show. And I was obsessed with it, man. I loved it. It was so amazing. I remember the castle before the Dark Tournament happened. I remember the castle when the 4 characters, when they first met Hiei, for example. I remember the day of when we as Americans got to find out who Hiei was and deal with like the ceiling with the spikes coming down inside of that castle. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about, but I remember that day. I remember my living room and everything when my parents were still together at that time. YuYu Hakusho was just magical as a kid. And rewatching it now as an adult, it's like that too. It's just phenomenal. It's not a typical anime, and when I talk to like the younger generation over the last 10 years that are obsessed with anime and manga, when I talk about this show, they've either never heard of it, which is okay because this is a foreign thing. They've either never heard of it, or like they've heard of it and they're not interested in seeing it. Because I don't think they understand how good we used to have it. You know what I mean? They see like the newer animation styles and stuff. I prefer this like 80s style animation like DBZ and YuYu Hakusho. Ronin Warriors, I think, is the one that with like the samurai people. I love this show. I think it just gets better as it goes along most of the time, except for that little lull I talked about. It has probably the best score for an anime ever aside from Brad Falconer's DBZ. Yeah, I said it. I said it, deal with it. It all adds up to making one of the best shows I think I've ever watched in my entire life. And I know I keep saying that, but you don't know how much I mean that until you've seen this show. It's beautiful. I love these characters. I love the Dark Tournament. I could literally right now, because it was so good, I could turn the Dark Tournament saga on right now again and watch it. And like the two main bad guys of the Dark Tournament that really kicked that whole thing off, I can never remember their names. They're brothers. Is it Tortuga? Toguro? Something like that. I can never remember their names, dude. But they're fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. The villains in this show, they're so creatively done. This whole spirit detective idea may or may not have been something new when this came out in Japan. I don't know. But I love it. It just, to me, it gets better and better. It's such a cool idea. We don't get stuff like this in America. This is a great example of where, even though I don't like the YuYu Hakusho manga I tried to read, the concepts like this, and a story being told from beginning to end, even though I heard the manga gets even worse as the series goes on and gets more rushed towards the end. Just like, by the way, this show, the last 10 or 15 episodes, that other tournament I talked about, super rushed. It always feels like, because of the score of this show, that anytime a real threat, one of the big villains of this show, shows up, it feels like the stakes get so high that they make you kind of nauseous. Have you ever watched or read something that does that? That's how this show makes me feel sometimes. And this whole spirit detective concept makes that even better to me. I love it. I think it is so genius, dude. And I wish the books were as good as this, to me. This is a great example to me of an anime that blows the manga out of the water. And I usually like to read more than I like to watch things, to be honest, when it comes to comics anyway. But it's not the case with this. It is just such a special show, man. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I would hope that this review sells you on watching it. If you haven't seen it before, if you didn't grow up on YuYu Hakusho, you missed out on something really special. Even though technically I didn't grow up on it as much because I didn't get to finish all of it. But man, I have wanted to finish the show for so long, you have no idea. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. What are your thoughts on YuYu Hakusho's anime, the manga? Let me know all that down below. Who's your favorite character or top 3? What's your favorite story arc? I think all of us will agree Dark Tournament's probably easily the best. It's probably the best tournament in any manga or anime ever, to be honest, because it's so good. I would love to hear everything you have to say about it all down below. And I wish we had like a sequel series of YuYu Hakusho instead of just what we got here. I wish we had more. But it still feels to me like the author didn't want to continue this. By the way, I'm pretty sure the author is the same person who either made Hunter x Hunter or Demon Slayer. I know it's one of those two. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. In case you're a fan of either of those, you should totally go back and watch this at some point. Anyway, thank you all again. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.